He's coached everyone. He's seen just about everything that rugby has to offer. Mr. John Mitchell.
I've got PTSD. I'm going back in time.
Could that old John Mitchell have worked with the Red Roses?
I'd be dead and buried now.
Right.
The way that I had to evolve was to understand personality. And it took that moment where I was stabbed in my leg, my arm, to go, I need to change the way I think.
You were coaching the All Blacks at 37.
You'll be reporting to the All Black manager. I said, no, All Black only has one coach.
There is a lot of pressure around this Red Roses side.
How do we get done what we haven't had for 11 years? I got a bit emotional after that game.
Solitary tear running down your face.
It's a bit of a tap, mate. It comes.
John's gone.
Very strong, John. John's gone.
Into the final moments, Alex Payne trying to keep this side going forward. Haskell takes it on now with just relentless chat, largely about himself. And there's Tindall to add the finishing touch of glamour and World Cup winning stories. That is how you podcast.
Q. Hello Dream Team, welcome along to this week's episode of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby, proudly sponsored by Continental Tyres. Our go-to for premium tyres at Continental. Safety, performance and grip are the name of the game. The complete opposite of this unpredictable show where we're never quite sure how the journey will unfold. But as always, buckle up and enjoy the ride. And today we are joined by a man who has been almost everywhere that the game is played. He's coached everyone. He's seen just about everything that rugby has to offer. He is a coach, a leader, and I think it's probably fair to say a man who isn't or hasn't been afraid to ruffle a few feathers along the way. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the current Red Roses head coach, Mr. John Mitchell. How are you?
Morning, Alex. How you doing?
All right.
James, Michael.
Hello.
I've got PTSD. I'm going back in time to early 2000s.
Are you? Well, you sprung up and ran across to have a big man hug though, at the point of
it was
John
definitely
walked
a coach that I enjoyed.
Right.
I've
in. There's a couple of similarities actually when you line the two up alongside
I
each
modelled
other.
my haircut on it. It's not quite as good yet. It's not as polished. But it's been a lot. We were saying how long it's been. It's probably been 20 years since back in those days of an England forwards coach, and obviously I would have played against his Sale team a bit earlier before that, and it was good. It was the good old days. It's reminiscent of times gone past that will never return again in terms of what you did in training and everything else. But
Tins ran up, warmed his seat for him, got him a coffee, brushed him down, made sure he was okay.
Outside cleaning the alloys. Yeah, exactly.
Didn't look him in the eye. Okay, sir.
That's
Sorry, sir. Is
respect.
everything okay, sir?
Do you need some pads?
Yeah.
So get
How
the
are you
sausages out.
How is life? How much are you enjoying coaching the Red Roses?
Yeah, it's been beyond what I actually thought. It's been challenging, fun, makes you laugh constantly. But I think it's probably maybe a better coach and a better person as a result of taking it on. I've certainly learnt a lot over the last two years, with them, and I think I'm also providing them greater awareness around what it takes to become the best team in the world, and obviously better as professional rugby players, because really at the end of the day it's very similar to the men's game in '95. I remember at Sale there, waiting for the guys to come in from work at 5 p.m. and there was only 6 of us that were professionals, and a lot of it still feels like that, because as much as there's 30 girls that get the biggest rugby contracts in the world, and 5 of the girls are on sort of like smaller transitional contracts, you do get injuries, so you often have to ring up somebody from work and see, are you able to come in?
Right.
We're still in that phase as well. So it's huge, and the commitment and the desire and the love that a lot of these girls have for the game is quite remarkable.
I love the fact you've mentioned 1995, because obviously that takes you back to when you came up here and were playing for Sale. I just very quickly want to ask everyone, if you don't already, please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell as well. And don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. And I think there are going to be a number of factors and responses which will provoke quite a lot of reaction this week. We're going to talk about your coaching journey, and to kind of sum that up, 30 years in coaching, 7 different countries: New Zealand, Ireland, England, Australia, South Africa, Japan and the USA. Which is almost the full house. Is there any way you haven't coached that you'd like to?
Uruguay is a lot smaller than Brazil and Argentina. It's like less than 3 million people.
Right.
Been there with USA before. Just a nice little country, I reckon, that enjoys rugby.
Well, if you're here, if we win the World Cup, we'll get the Uruguay hooked up.
Yeah.
Can we come on a tour to visit you and you for your coach?
Uruguay as well. Lovely ring to it.
Oh, excellent.
So we're going to come on to all of that. But you mentioned 95. I actually want to go back to 93, because the real rugby balls among us will remember you. And the first time I remember watching you was against the Lions for Waikato. And I mean, you absolutely
You are
stuffed
such
from
a
that day.
geek,
I am,
mate.
but that was my. If I was to go on Mastermind, that sort of era would be my thing. But you had an amazing team. Warren Gatland involved in it. Matt Cooper, was it right to say, was it Dwayne Monkley was part of your setup as well?
Yeah, Dwayne was. He was probably a very unsung hero. Never played for the All Blacks. Outstanding guy. He's had 2 hip replacements since.
Right.
Yeah, like
the joys of the game.
Fingers on him. Disjointed. It was actually, would you believe, he worked for the breweries as a transporter of kegs, and I think as much as rugby, killed
Good
him
man
off.
to know.
Functionally, I think it was dropping the kegs on the knees.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and putting them down. Seriously, I think that, yeah.
Rolling a couple into the clubhouse when no one was watching. But tell us about you as a player.
I enjoyed rugby right from the start because, I could slid down the bank and got dirty and didn't really know much about it. Mum and Dad were basketballers, so we weren't brought up with rugby. So then I go to secondary school, I made the provincial team as a 12-year-old, didn't make the starting team. Saw these big guys, went to secondary school, made the starting 7th grade team, and then the school slammed a protocol on that you could only play one sport in exam years. So I couldn't play any rugby. I had a deputy principal that was Taranaki rugby coach. I had a woodwork teacher, coached Taranaki. So I was around rugby people all the time. And then I just chose basketball, and then eventually all my mates said to me, why don't you come play first 15 in the last year? As it turned out, the school gave me a dispensation to play both, so that was class. And then from that point onwards, I just thought, wow, that's just the camaraderie, the way that this game works. And then I wasn't really ready for the physical side of things. I could play, pass, and all that kind of stuff, but I had to build myself into the contact areas. And then in my year out of school, my basketball coach noticed a few scratches on me and said, are you not telling us something? And I basically said, look, yeah, I'm playing rugby as well. So he said, you need to make a decision. So I've been at rugby ever since.
Wow.
So I was just a guy that could play ball. And then all of a sudden this game became physical. And I think, geez, if I'm going to have to cope, I'm going to have to get bigger and stronger. So as I got bigger and stronger, I was able to dominate the collision. I was able to hurt some people. Yeah, that was the way the game was, because somebody was always trying to get you. And the first 20 minutes was ridiculous. It was just like there's no space for the first 20 minutes because somebody's going to try and get you.
Right.
Did you sit well with you as a person? Were you quite a fit? So we talked about off air about when I first went to WAS, I had to become more abrasive, and it actually ultimately did suit my personality, but didn't actually come to me. You as a person, it doesn't sound like it was like that, but did it feel like it unlocked as soon as you started being aggressive, like someone punches you in the first 2 seconds? You always see with people, they either back down and go, I didn't like that, or it suddenly kicks off like, actually, I don't mind a tear up. You sound like you were quite the sort of the latter, that someone would bang you, be like, okay, I'm happy to have a fight. Were you naturally aggressive like that or not?
It was amazing. It was these 2 old guys, club days, playing well for your club to become a provincial player before all this professional stuff came around, was that the 2 old guys, there was always 30, 32-year-olds, a lot of older guys in the group, and they just come up to me after one game against Patara, I remember it, and his name's Ross Bougen and Bruce Keys, 2 front rowers, said to me, hey Mitch, you got beaten by Wayne Bullett today, like he's a Waikato player, he turned you over. So what's your plan B? And so basically they didn't give me the answer. Didn't give me the answer at all. I walked away for a week and found a way.
Which involved?
So the next week I played university and I knocked this bloke out. And I got the walk of shame across the field back into the changing room. And these 2 blokes come up to me after that, obviously, and said, look, well done, Sonny, but we didn't think you were going to get to go and do that. So I had to calibrate that. But
mentality was right.
Yeah.
It's
good. If you go from one extreme to the other, you can find somewhere in the middle.
But that's what I mean. The fact you got that when someone goes, what's your plan B? You go, I've knocked him out. That's kind of a way of handling it. Probably just notch it back a little bit. But it was rugby was like that back in the day, wasn't it? Those first line-outs, uncontested, someone just punched you straight across the That was
the worst place in the world to line out.
Yeah.
This arm come flying out like that, straight into your jaw. I'm asleep in my main bedroom. Where'd that come from? I got knocked out on it. Yeah.
But I'm interested to ask you about sort of the All Blacks, because I know Warren Gatland's been very sort of open in the past about a lot of his drive comes from the fact that he spent a lot of time sitting on the splinters for Sean Fitzpatrick. I mean, you were playing in an era of some of the greatest All Black back rowers that there were, and Zinzan and Aaron Penne and Michael Jones, etc. Are you fueled now by perhaps what wasn't then, or did you get the most out of your rugby career and you're happy with what it was when it was?
Yeah, I wasn't good enough to be a long time All Black. I think I got there purely in the end through the factors that I persevered, and then I became a long time captain and was a leader of a very successful team. Like Murray Mexted was my first outing.
Wow.
Wayne Shelford was my next outing, who cut me in half in 1989. And then obviously just the guys you just mentioned. So there was always five people hanging around that could potentially play for the All Blacks back then. Like,
do you keep in touch with Warren Gatland now? He's obviously had a bumpy old month or two. Do you drop him a text, or was that lay where it lay?
No, Gats and I used to be flatmates, would you believe?
Did you really?
Way back in the police as well.
He could actually
squeeze him onto our T-shirt that we were getting.
Yeah.
He'd probably be able to tell us a couple of stories. He used to call my my bed in the flat the horseshoe, because I had this velvet edging.
Because there's always animals in that.
Then there was a mattress, like a U-shaped mattress and stuff. So he just.
What was Gats like there? What was he like as a flatmate?
Oh, good bloke.
Really?
Yeah.
Hygienic, like
No,
big crop. You had the horseshoe. What did he have?
Did
Did he have like a silk, like chaise long and stuff like that?
Oh no, our other mate Timmy, he came from Waihi. He had a glass eye as well, and he just had a money jar, for free grog and stuff. I love toast.
Toast, free
Proper
grog.
Studentsville in some ways, isn't it?
But Gats, him and I go way back. We were in Perth with Waikato just on a Australian tour, and then I think we had Queensland as the main game, and we're in the room when he lost his first daughter, Jonah, with spina bifida. So there's lots of memories. We started Waikato together in 85. I think he ended up with 140 and I ended up with 134 or whatever. But he sat the whole bench at the bench out in the first year. I at least got some games. But he persevered massively. We had strong characters as well. So we had Ian Foster in that group as well. So we had sort of 5 school teachers and then about 3 or 4 big egos. And I just happened to be the guy that was the mediator, I guess, of the group.
How frustrating would rugby be back then when you couldn't make substitutions if you were on the bench for a season?
It actually sounds like quite a list group. Yeah. We've got one school teacher and 2 big egos.
There we go. Perfect harmony. And the question therefore comes out: why do you think that era and your team has thrown out 3 of the coaches that have gone on to achieve as much as they have? It's a bit like Saracens up here, actually, that's become a bit of a coaching factory as well in the last decade or so.
Yeah, it's a really good question. But so our coach Kevin Green, I think he's suffering a bit of dementia at the moment. But he was just a cheese cutter kind of bloke. Was really good with people, facilitated probably more than anything. And then we had this really strict disciplinarian forward coach. And you could tell who could fight, and his compliment, post match was just eyes. It was just never. And both those 2 were my club coaches for 8 years, so I understood them really, really well. And I think because we stayed together for a long time, and a couple of backs came in, our back line got better, but our majority of our forward pack was there. And I think because they facilitated us, then we had the autonomy to make decisions. And then I guess we had the forwards coach who could challenge our attitude or our mindset, whereas Greeno would always keep the morale, bloody good as a group.
Kind of, have you adopted those characteristics from them, or are there other people in your career that shaped you as a coach that you would say, actually, I've taken that trait I like, that trait I liked, or have you just developed your own kind of style?
Yeah, I think the longer I've been in it, it's been more focused on people. I think when I first started, I was probably had elements where I thought, Laurie Maines I was under Laurie Maines as an All Black coach, and so he had this VO2 sort of thinking around that if we could increase our VO2 max, we could be the fittest international team that could win the 95 World Cup. So if you could imagine a session, lads, of say 40 minutes of skills, and then you run 31 150s, then 120 down and ups between try line and goal line. So now you know where those ruck drills come from. And
It's beginning to spin out a little bit.
And then, because I was in VO2 Max Group 3, not 2 or 1, I had to do an extra 35-minute run, so I wouldn't get the bus home. And then you'd run the golf course, and you see the Otago boys sitting under the trees having a relax because they're coached by him, domestically. And I'm saying, the old fellow, he'll come across the hill soon. As he does, he comes across the hill, and they're off. But that was the constant. I mean, but as a midweek All Black, every Saturday morning, I'd try and work out whether Laurie had a beer or a good social night or a good laugh, because I was wondering what was coming. I was want to try and let the boys know that we're going to get drilled, and it was always constantly 12 weeks in Britain. I remember doing 31 150s every Saturday morning.
But as a coach, I obviously didn't ever have. I was obviously very unlucky to have you.
Horrendous.
I never actually got to work with you as a player. But obviously, I was a fan of Wasp when you coached Wasp. I obviously would listen to what the guy said, and obviously through your career, there are moments where you've gone back to that. Also, legend says, coming and making the guys do 31 150s or a variation of that. So, but obviously now, that has its place at times, but again, for the modern player and how attritional the game is, you can't always do that. Have you had to find the balance sometimes, or do you still go back to the old school sometimes and pull out the draw and go, actually, this is much more about character building than it is even physical requirements?
I think because we, and you guys as well, you had majority of your career probably coming from, you were coached or led in group settings. We were totally led in group settings. So I think these days you've got, as much as you've still got group settings, you've got to do a lot of work. You've got to enable the individual. Yeah. You've got to understand the individual. So where I've buggered up and basically either lost the changing room, or the organisation is saying it's time to go, is I haven't fitted because I at the end of the day didn't understand the people or what the people needed, and as a result of that, the way that I had to evolve was to I guess understand personality, understand how to enable all the different types of people, and ultimately these days, I still plan and do those sorts of things. I know what I'm going in for in the day, but at the end of the day, I just receive people as they are.
Yeah.
Because you can just look in their eyes these days and work out what they need, and potentially they're either on it or they're not on it, and I just play that card these days. And it's so much better to be able to coach and just walk in and have the tools at your disposal after so much experience, and it just really comes down to communicating effectively with people. That's how I see it.
Do you think the players nowadays are more needy in terms of they are less problem solvers themselves?
I think there's a lot of, especially when you get players come into an international environment, everyone does it differently, don't they? So some are highly structured organisations. It's probably a bit like bringing up your kids. I mean, at the end of the day, you can choose to control everything that your kids do, and you can do that from a coaching point of view, but ultimately, at the end of the day, if you control them, they're not going to be able to adapt. So you've got to leave something for them to discover, I think. You've got to leave something that's blank where they'll find the way. Give them enough information to be able to go forward and deal with it, and then let them self-discover.
When you say you lost the change room or environments, was it a case of you coming and just going, I'm going to do this? Did you misread the room? Like, how do you feel like you lose a squad or a team?
I think the two instances that I didn't get right were, I was an inaugural coach at Western Force, so I had to bring pretty close to 36 guys from the eastern states to come to the Western Australia, and only 7 of them have been professional. And then there was the Lions, who had lost 17 games in a row, hadn't won a Currie Cup for 51 years. A mixture of aging players and younger players, but just didn't know how to win. For me, I think those developing jobs, and there's 3 different categories. Sometimes you get a group that's 19 to 23. They need a particular coach.
Yeah.
Then you get a 23 to 30-year-old group. They need a particular coach. And then when you get an aging group, they need a particular coach. I think I've probably learnt how to deal with all those 3 age groups. Whereas when I first started out, I had one way.
Right. Yeah.
And I think, and I didn't have the tools, nor did I have have the ability to be open, I think, to actually coach better. But also, I fell into the trap of outcome. So after we lost the World Cup semi-final in 2003, and rightly or wrongly, the way that I was exited, I was extremely hard on myself for 4 years.
Can you just remind how did that?
We lost the semi-final.
Well, I remember that, but
yeah.
what was the fallout of that? It's quite.
I flew back. So I waited in the change room after the bronze medal thingy, and I got called over by the CEO and the chairman saying, "Look, you're going to have to reapply for your job. This is like at midnight, and go, yeah, cool, all good." So then I flew back to family, and I flew back going to Wellington, to then go to Hamilton rather than going to Auckland. So I said to the media guy, I said, "Look, is there going to be many here like in Wellington?" He said, "No, bugger all." Oh yeah, rightio. So I don't know if you've been to the Wellington airport. It's tiny. Little carriage cell,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all these fluffy cats are just like right in front of me, like smashing me. And then I walk up to domestic to put my bag in, and they're still hammering me. Some of the public were really nice, actually. I remember they just lay off them, And then I basically lived at home, and I had people knocking on my door at 10 o'clock at night wanting interviews. I got caught going to the gym in my mate's rugby league kit. This guy just jumped out of the bush at going to the gym.
And they plotted and said that you were like going over to rugby league or something like that?
Well, no, I was in conflict with the sponsors, and stuff like and that stuff. And then I eventually spoke after spending a lot of time at home watching the kids' sport and stuff. I eventually spoke, and I let this person into the house from the New Zealand Herald. And they then headlined this article going, he lives in a low socioeconomic house, and then they created the horns coming out of a devil and stuff. So I was copping it like everywhere and that. And then at 30, I was probably 40 then, and I was just going, wow, like I need to prove that I can win.
Okay.
And I fell into that trap. And so it took sitting in a restaurant in Nice in 2007 with some mates when New Zealand lost to France, I think, in the quarterfinal, where everyone sent me emails and texts. And I thought, why am I getting joy through somebody else's failure?
Yeah.
That's not right. So that's number one little trigger.
Yeah.
Then I go to South Africa to start coaching the Lions. And within 3 months of coaching the Lions, I'm caught in my bed with mobile phone wire, curtain cord wire tied up by two intruders where I'm trying to keep my life, and they're just saying, look, take me to the ATM. And it took that moment where I was stabbed in my leg and my arm on entry and sleep and survived that. It took me at that point to go, hey, I need to change the way I think, stop chasing outcome, and change my process around and evolve and do some things that I want to do in life that are important to me. So I showed some courage, from that point onwards in my life to make some decisions that I thought were good for me and that I wanted to do.
Were you receptive? Because I sometimes find in sport, particularly with men and alpha men, they're not necessarily receptive to taking feedback and having self-awareness. It's quite, especially when you're a sports person, we're very dedicated and focused, but it's quite hard to make a change and U-turn. Were you originally early on in your career quite resilient to hearing stuff, and did you go, I think I know best, and then obviously you had those moments to change, or have you always been open-minded? Because I think it is interesting with people I've seen with coaches.
And also what sacrifices you have to make, because there's always something. If you want to give more time to what you want to do, you have to sacrifice something else, don't you?
Because it's quite hard to be receptive and put your hand up and say, actually, I need to change. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't do it.
I've always been a good learner,
okay,
but I got it wrong for 4 years.
Okay.
I focused on outcome. I got stuck. I thought I needed to prove to people that I could win again. So I fell into that outcome bubble, which is ugly to live in. And it's amazing. I'm still driven. I still understand the threat of coaching at this level. I probably just need to learn how to soothe or give myself a little bit of tender, loving care from time to time. So
you don't have to worry about it when you're an England Rose coach. Winning comes anyway.
Yeah, true. There's plenty of pressure about the
but it's a bit like going back though to New Zealand. If you lose one game, that's the end of the world, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think really, for me, it's just I'm still driven. Like I said, I'm still driven. So I just got to sometimes warn myself when I get over consumed again, and I go, I ain't going down that path again.
Does your partner or your wife, is she a good sounding board? Do you have people in your life to check you, like who see that come and go? John, you're doing a bit too much. You've gone down that rabbit hole, or is it your own self awareness? Who do you have like good sounding boards? Because I think no man is an island, as they say. You kind of need someone to maybe going down the rabbit hole too much.
Yeah, Julie's the best. She just gives me the eyes, or she'll give me a strum up as well. Like at the moment, I've got my head buried in watching footage and obviously going through selection spreadsheets and stuff and cutting and pasting. And she sort of goes, I thought you said you were going to make sure that you're not focusing on any work after 6 p.m. Yeah, I thought I was.
World Cup ticking down.
Best intentions.
Yeah.
Sorry to go back, and by all means, we absolutely don't have to talk about this, but you just referenced the incident was it Johannesburg, which was a fairly seminal moment in your life, and you sort of popped it into a sentence. But can you just expand on that as to what happened and how it has changed you? I mean, it's a remarkable line to sort of throw away, but I'm just interested as whether you relive it now, the sort of the impact of it and how it has changed you.
It probably affected the strength and conditioning coach, Wayne Taylor, more than myself, because he fled down the downpipe to try and get help, not knowing what to expect when he came back.
So you were asleep in bed at 2 a.m.?
2 a.m. in the morning,
2
yeah. So we'd just finished Currie Cup the previous season, had a few drinky poos, so it was a pretty tough sort of a day, and we're just relaxing, but it was a balmy night. I still remember it was like quite a lot of storms going on in Joburg at the time, and the way when the contractors come into your complex, they find weaknesses in the security wires around the side. But we were typical Kiwis, left the doors open, like a lot, left the windows open a lot, didn't put on the alarm. She'll be fine. So we made a bit of an error there, but it was, firstly I thought it's actually Tails pulling a joke on me at 2 a.m. That's what I thought, and I went, Tails, get off me, Tails, get off me, and then I realised I was in trouble. So I think that, unfortunately, I'm not a big fighter. I can handle myself on a rugby field, but I think he was light enough to be able to throw around, I think, and that's when the other guy came in from the right and obviously got me in the tricep and the leg, but I didn't know at that time because it was so dark. And then obviously they tied me up and then put me through the process of asking me questions, going, where is he? There's 2 here. Where is he? And I said, look, I've got no idea. But once I got over the initial being really, really scared and crying that I was going to probably get killed, I went into defence. I'm gonna last this. I'm gonna play it smart. Just gonna bury my head in the pillow. Just give them whatever they want. If I had family inside the house, it might have been a different story.
Yeah.
If the girls were in the house, I might have acted differently in terms of defence. But I thought the only way to play the game was to bury my head in the pillow. And as it turned out, I negotiated pretty well, and then they eventually people came back and they fled, and the damage missed me my artery, which was good. So then I just about a bonus. Yeah, and then I just went through insomnia for a while, and the only thing that gave me peace and helped me get through insomnia, I reckon, was light. I actually started visualising light outside my apartment. So I went through periods of leaving the lights on and sleeping. You know what that's like. You always wake up. Then I went through periods where I locked the door on my right because that was where I had this feeling of that's where they came in. There were other times where I leave it open. So I went through all this sort of rehearsal to try and be able to get my sleep back. And the only thing that brought my sleep back was lighter, visualising light.
Did you reflect on how you reacted? Did you then go, that was the right way to do it? Did you chastise yourself? Because obviously you said your mate went out the window. He must have been quite hard on himself because he essentially left you. Even though to get help, you're still leaving a mate. If he'd come back and you were dead, would he have ever been able to live with that? Do you know what I mean? This is a really interesting way of replaying that stuff.
Yeah, James, he actually went through more counselling than what I did. I knew how I was touched. I knew they stripped me off and everything, and I was worried at one point, but I knew exactly what happened to me, so I could counsel easily because I knew what it. But he was always living in the guess scene. What if, and which is a different mental space. But to give you so Jules and I lived in Durban, and people said, "Oh, you should have had a taser. You should have had a knife. You should have had a gun."
Should have, could have.
I wouldn't know how to use half of those things. But I did get a fiberglass rod made, which is about 1 metre, because now I've got the girls in the house, right?
Yeah.
So there was one night where she says, "I think my trainers have been nicked outside the sliding door," and she reckons she could hear somebody. So we locked the door and then we pushed our security button, and I still get if I get a fright these days, I still get that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I had a lot of that when I was like in the intrusion. So sometimes it still brings me back to that, and it's it's quite freaky, yes, and you think, oh, it's on again.
Yeah, might jump out you in training camp. Especially the lads are so stupid. We had a guy, we had Dylan, 4 former special forces guys, and I would always try to creep up on them and just get them. But one of the Dylan Hartley did it in the middle of town, bag shot, and went up behind the guy, grabbed him, and the guy flipped out, thought it was PTSD mode, threw Dylan over his shoulders, about to start filling him in, and Dylan Hart shouted, it's me, it's Dylan. The guy went glassy-eyed, 1,000-yard stare, was it's going to fucking kill him. Yeah. Red Roses, anyone working with John Mitchell, do not jump out. I'm scared. Fiberglass rod, straight around the head.
Disappears down the trousers.
Blood pressure. When you look back now, how many years has it been since?
It was 2010 when it happened.
15 years. When you look back now, do you feel a very different person to the one that sort of went into that experience relative to the man who came out of it?
Yeah, I feel pretty. I think I was probably a little bit lost in my career. I didn't have a solution to how it works. My leadership was poor. My coaching was poor. And I was stuck. And like you alluded to, was I open? I wasn't open at that point. And I think as a result of that, I've found a way, which is cool. And yeah.
I think credit to you, because what was interesting when I saw you were announced as the defence coach with Eddie Jones, I was I'd only ever heard about Reputation. I knew guys thought very highly of as a person, but I saw as I heard was tough, uncompromising kind of coach. So I was very interested, and it's the first thing I think after 6 months perhaps, or however long you were with the England team, I sat down with the lads and I said, what's John Mitchell like? What's like? I've heard it, and they were like, brilliant, fantastic, always rave reviews. And I was like, really? Because I'd heard he's like this can be kind of tough person. I wonder if you'd come in having not had those incidents, would you have been that, a very different person? But it seems like that you have completely changed in certain aspects. You still have that drive, you still have that determination, you still know when to turn it on. Could that old John Mitchell have worked with the Red Roses again? Do you think?
No, you just wouldn't survive. I'd be dead and buried now, as a coach, I think.
Okay.
And then when you go into like Eddie's environment, so to give you an idea of how the growth, how the growth occurs, you go into that environment, and what does the organisation need? You know Eddie's strong leadership. He's not highly relational. And then a lot of the people that were in the staff weren't highly relational either. So the boys needed somebody that could have a relationship with them, and engender an environment where they could be on it, but they also, when they're off it, they could actually have some fun. Also, when on it, you can still get across a message, can't you? When in a funny way. And I just sensed that the group needed that
compassion and someone to different.
So
vibe.
I played that little role, whether it was right or wrong, but I thought that was the right fit at the time.
We've seen that with England teams when we had the one when I always said when I had Stuart Lancaster and Andy Farrell and Graham Roundtree and those guys were the England coaches, they were all alpha males, all very good men and good coaches, but missed that bit of compassion, because they were all very similar. I think the makeup of any coach stuff is so important, because you need that emotional driver. And it's actually interesting that you walked in and spotted that, because that just shows how what a developed coach you are, because it'd be very simple to go back in and go, I'll prove myself, I'm going to do this, but actually going, what does the environment need? I think that's really, really an interesting way of doing it, because a lot of coaches I see, especially at club teams, don't get that right, because they all want to prove themselves.
But do you think all coaches start off in that same way, where winning is the only thing that they care about to start off with, and then it is always that journey? There's some get there quicker.
Tim, it's a good point you make. I think it's important to start coaching, I think, at the level that allows you to be your authentic self. So when I look back, I started with my club. It was easy, given the club 14 years, had a lot of success, been captain of Waikato, played a few games for the All Blacks, so I was able to have credibility, and you could be yourself. But then when you jump too early into something that's beyond your experience, which I did, rightly or wrongly.
Was that with Sale or with the All Blacks?
Or going from, say, Sale to England.
Yeah, okay.
In our time, and then going to New Zealand, quickly out of the Chiefs. So to me, I probably jumped some hurdles. So and I therefore had some gaps, because I was actually going into some teams where my experience wasn't ready for everything. I didn't have everything covered as a leader. So I think I was trying to be somebody that potentially I wasn't. I didn't intentionally go about that, but I didn't have the skills or the experience to be able to bounce off or I guess make good decisions. And I didn't have the experience to draw. I should have drawn on other people at that time, but I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, you were coaching the All Blacks at 37.
Yeah.
Which I think would be, I can't think of anybody who's 37 in the game who, it's almost unrepeatable, I would think, in this day and age. Did they come and get you? Did you go and get them? Do you remember getting the job day one, sort of the early sort of tests that you had to go through as All Black coach? I mean, there isn't really a hotter seat in the sport.
So I go back from England. Woody was a bit late in offering me a contract after the 2000 Six Nations. I think we won that Six Nations. It was the first time we played in Rome.
Yeah. We lost the Grand Slam game against Scotland.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's exactly how I described it. That's exactly how I described it. Still the worst.
There's a lot of PTSD around this table right now, I think.
So went back for grandchildren to connect.
Did you leave on
parents.
a handshake with Sir Clive, or were you a bit like, actually, if you're not?
I did leave on a handshake. I was annoyed with him prior to the Six Nations because he couldn't be clear on confirming a contract. He was definitely interested in somebody else, but we had a good Six Nations, and I think he liked what I did, or in terms of where I evolved in that tournament. But I had a good handshake there. Then went to New Zealand, and would you believe I was development officer for Waikato, and I cut up the province into 4 zones and created a development plan, and I coached the Waikato senior B side to the national championship that year. That was my job. So I dropped salary, dropped role and everything, but it was really enjoyable to get back into the roots of where I came from. And then the Chiefs job came up, and they asked me to apply, and I applied, and I got that role, and that was signed for 3 years. And then the All Blacks, Wayne Smith, caved in after the Bettesloe Cup loss, and then reapplied.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, funny enough, reapplied. So I thought I'd just apply, having international experience, and get some sort of experience around what a big interview like that would be. Robbie Deans and I spoke. I thought Robbie would get it. And then I got home from the flight from Wellington later that night. The board had asked me to approve myself, and then they asked me to come up the motorway to Auckland the next day. So I bomb up the motorway the next day, and I get the All Black manager and the deputy CEO, Steve Chew, at the time. So he wasn't CEO at the time. And he offers me a contract, and he goes, you'll be reporting to the All Black manager. I said, no. All Black only has one coach. The leader has to be the head coach. So I said, I'm fine. I said, I'll drive back down if you're okay. So I got offside with the hierarchy
pretty early
before Inc.
Yeah, right. It's a good way. Sounds like my school of approach. Yeah,
in the Hask school of life.
So it didn't start off greatly, and so I don't know what gave me the strength at 37 to stand my ground for those sorts of things, to even to get the leadership in the right way.
Wow.
So what? Sorry, just they wanted you to report to.
So they would have they'd have a manager let's say like Clive.
Yeah,
and then,
fine.
And then
because Clive, every time we always joke, because every time there's an England coach job that doesn't go well, Steve Borthwick doesn't go well. He always says that what they need is a manager above them, because he always wants to put his job in. He always talks about it on Daily Mail. It's always like, what we need is someone in charge. Who could that be, Clive? I mean, you want to go above them? And obviously they said the same thing under Eddie. They said Eddie needed a boss that would then, which obviously he would never do. So you would do the same thing. Nobody wants someone looking over their shoulder,
And then I experienced another board, and then 3 CEOs. And if you talk to a lot of head coaches in the world, what's your biggest fear when you're incumbent? Is if your CEO changes on you and the board changes on you, because you're not their signature.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hard to turn that relationship around or get it for it to go in the same direction. So yeah.
Just on the same question, how hard is it when you're a coach? When you come in, do you always have to clear ships of assistant coaches?
Yeah, there's obviously 2 ways you can go. The football model is obviously, the latter, where they like to bring in their own coaching groups. I think what I do prefer is giving people a chance first, and so I'm okay to inherit a group. I actually like developing coaches. I like mentoring coaches. So I'm in a space at the moment with a lot of younger coaches who've got really, really good careers. I've got 2 women coaches as well who've got outstanding careers ahead of them. So for me, it's I'm at a different stage in life where we're developing them to be better coaches, and for us to become a cohesive group is quite exciting. Naturally, it's sometimes you want to, if you want to change or play in a particular way, and you've got somebody who's outstanding, you'd like to bring them in. But a lot of these people are either contracted or not available anyway. So yeah, my preference these days is I'm okay with inheriting. If you're a younger coach where you probably don't trust some of those people, then their plan might be quite different. But internationally, I guess, if you look at Eddie's successful era, he probably had very good coaches around him.
Yeah.
And if you look at his latter career with England, he probably didn't have the best coaching group around him. And definitely, I think when you're at the highest level, you've definitely got to have the best people around, because the players deserve that.
There was a lot written and said after Eddie had left the RFU about his time there, and I'm sure you've seen that. Most of it's sort of quite flammable. What was your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I love the environment, especially the way I came in when we were getting over a difficult period in 2018. We nailed the box by a point. Owen's shot on, was it Esterhazy?
Yeah, that's right.
Remember Russie went to the media with the long tackle bags.
That's right, yeah.
And was doing height things and stuff. So, we got going again, and then we, obviously I think the energy of the World Cup drove that momentum, and then we had that significant result in the Six Nations in Ireland. Probably one of
2019.
Yeah. And that was a good defensive night as well. And so we were just growing, and then you could really feel that we had an opportunity. I remember when the game against France was called off in 2019. We were training at Miyazaki. You can tell when the boys are on it, and we trained against each other, and the session went down to a line break, and the defensive team stopped the line break and won the game. And yeah, there was euphoria. And you could and the way as the boys jumped in the ice baths and the energy that was going around in Miyazaki that day, I was thinking, well, we might win this. Yeah, it was just a feeling. It's an intangible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a great time. Then after the World Cup, I just felt a little bit more pressure in terms of connecting with a new coaching group. And Eddie put a bit of pressure on me to create that connection, and then I re-signed, and I wanted to sign because I was enjoying the lads, but I got to a point where I just woke up at 57 on my breakfast table, like 5-6 miles down the road from going to a coaching conference at Bagshot, and I said to my wife Julie, I said, it's over. She said, what? It's over. What were you going to find a job? And it's the stuff that I'll back myself. I said, I just value life differently now.
Was that because of how hot? Because of the demands in terms of Eddie? Because he would famously. I mean, everyone says he doesn't sleep. He used to have that. Annie, his dog, he used to have a dog bed under his desk. I found him asleep in that bed a few times, because he's only tiny, isn't he?
Yeah.
So he always used to say he never worked. But I think he'd set his alarm, wake up, send you a message at 4 a.m, and then fucking go back to sleep. But he would put quite a lot of demands on you and expectations. Was that what basically pushed you over? You mean?
Yeah, I think like when you sign up, that's once you sign up, that's what you commit to.
Yeah.
So I signed up for it, so it's 24/7.
Yeah.
Was the job you thought you were signing up to the job that you did sign up to?
Yeah.
You knew exactly what you were getting into at the start.
The first part, like for the 219 World Cup, all that, there was defence coach. Then it became sort of like he was sort of probably leaning on me more to connect the coaching group and the new coaching group. But I wasn't coaching.
I meant more the sort of the intensity of it and the 2 a.m. emails and the...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what you sign up to, That's and it's good. If you can sit in that space and work in that space, it's powerful. You can. But 24/7, like I think it only lasts for so long. And I'm the kind of guy as well that I enjoy the nuances of. You can't wash the car 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
But at night time when you're still washing the car 3 or 4 times at 10 o'clock at night, like I'd rather be having a beer at that point.
Yeah.
Like talking to you guys and, or whatever, like, so to me, I lost the fun aspect, the reasons why I coach is ultimately end of the day, it's when it's on. What I signed up to is I committed to, but there comes a point where I can't give you 24/7 anymore.
But if you said with the coaching staff, you said that you struggled to connect with them a bit. If there'd been different coaching staff and it'd been easier to connect with the new guys, would that have been? Would you think you would have stayed? Because if you really value, because I totally agree with you. I feel like where Eddie struggled was the quality of coaches around him, and that when he was at his best, he had strong people like yourself, like Paul Gustard, like like Borthers at times, and that balance. Each person played their role, and it was a very nice balanced coaching staff with a dictator at the top, and people fitted in. When it's just Eddie and there's not as stronger people around him, that's when I felt that the complications could happen. If you'd connected better, would it have been the juice been worth the squeeze? And the fact that you were tired of 24 hours a day and the fact you didn't really connect with them, that's probably what pushed you over. Is that right?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I would have, if I was getting more energy, because at the end of the day, you're a group. Yeah. And if you can get the right energy, then you carry on. But I just didn't feel we had the right energy. And when it becomes a chore. Yeah. Like it was just like, this is becoming hard work.
There was a rumour that it actually blew up around your son Daryl, who's obviously creating waves in cricket, and you wanted to go and watch him, and they said, "No, I want you to do something else." Is that rumour? Is that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit unfair on him. Because he loves cricket,
And you walk around with that cricket ball throwing it at people's heads in meetings and a cricket bat. Remember? You go, Hask, think fast. His cricket ball hit me in the head. He'd walk around pretending to bat people. Remember? Like fucking mad, He'd walk up to someone while you're doing a presentation, juggling a cricket ball, throw it at one of the kids and go, mate, their haircut's fucking shit. Watch John. Like, what is going on?
I reckon he'd be probably one of the best spin bowlers going, because you'd never be able to put the ball over his head. Yeah. and you could never pull it either, like for 6 because he's into you all the time. Yeah. Anyway, no, I think that was a little bit unfair on him, because we had a gap, and there was a day, and so I had to go to, I think it was, is it Trent Bridge, and you don't know whether they're going to win the toss, whatever way, so I only saw him bowl, so it would have been nice to get another day to watch him bat or whatever, but that didn't. We had to go into camp. So that was I think exaggerated a little bit. Smoke and mirrors.
Tell me about your boy and how proud you are, and the fact that he's obviously making waves in cricket. Where does this cricketing prowess come from? You've obviously got the basketball and the rugby, but
Daryl, he's typical boy, had a go at everything. And then when we came back to England from the first time, after the Six Nations in 2000, you put him into school, and this development officer comes back, I can't remember his name, and he goes, I think I can make your son into a batsman. I said, mate, you can do whatever you want. But then he goes, hey, and you're coming with it, you're part of it as well. And I'm like, me? You're like part of it. And so what he did is he said, you've got to give him lots of repetition of lines and stuff, like whether it's on the onside or the leg side and stuff. So we had this back lawn, had a crazy net catch as a slips. The onside fence was like, ball, it's got to be below your hip. Don't hit the house, into the house on the full. Go over the fence, it's worth 6 but -4, and you've got to go and get it off the sloppy dogs. So we had all these sort of rules, and he kind of mowed the pitch. And so a lot of those lines that development officer were talking about, we'd have 6 fast balls and 6 slow balls, and you had 15 runs to get within 12 balls. And so we just played this father and son game, and as you can imagine, flying bats going into the lounge because Dad's changed the rules again, those sorts of things. And that was
temperament.
That was our
the genes.
That was his background. That's how we went about it. And then I was always, I don't know where it's come from, but just let him self-discover. So I'd be present when I could be, and sometimes I wouldn't be present. And then his late grandfather, who just passed away, actually was probably the masculine feedback that he got when I wasn't around. So he was very lucky to have 2 lots of masculine feedback. But I used to just pop in. It's like coming over the sand dunes, have a look, see if everything's okay. Everything looks pretty cool. And then just let them get through good days and bad days, So, but he's found his way. Like he's at 33, I think he's learnt to master his craft. He's got an exercise physiology degree, so he likes the physical preparation of and he likes the mental side. I think cricket's the mental side is the thing he loves.
Yeah.
Do you ever go back out in the garden, like a reunion ever?
Jeez, I've gone in the nets with him.
He hits 30 off his 12.
No, I don't. It's quite fast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But you can't obviously possibly show as well any weakness as a dad. You can't do that. So you're like, come on then, faster, son, faster. As you're shitting,
Do you find the tension? Do you find the tension of playing as you did, coaching, or watching your boy bat for?
I was never
Cats?
a very good watcher of him as a parent when he was younger, because like as a parent you just want them to do well, don't you?
Sure.
So when he was playing for Scarborough and Perth, out of school, I used to just listen on the radio, and then go down there after about 10 overs. So I didn't show real courage as a father. Like I'd bottle it, but wait till he's in. So, but I think now that I think he's mastered his career. Like for me, it's a lot easier to watch him.
Yeah.
He's going to have good and bad days, and he's done enough to establish himself, in his cricket, and he'll still have plenty of bad days, but he'll also have some good ones as well.
Yeah, that experience thing
Yeah.
you've been talking about. Absolutely fascinating, amazing story. We have to talk obviously about what is to come later this year, and you've touched on some quite extraordinary experiences. I mean, the book, when it comes out, have you done a book? Or will you do a book?
I have done a book.
You have done a book?
Yeah, I have done it. It was called Mitch's Real Story. Yeah.
All right. When did you write? At what point of your career did you write that?
2011 by Gavin Rich.
Okay.
But
available in all good bookstores?
It was Penguin, I think, that wrote it.
Yeah.
And but unfortunately, Gavin, the writing company, they didn't publish it in New Zealand.
Right.
And they didn't publish it here.
Right. Where did they publish it?
Well,
Uruguay,
South
hopefully.
Africa.
Small little country, 3 million.
You're a big noise in Uruguay, a small Japanese village, and it's Africa.
Yeah. But obviously, it may well need a bit of a reboot and a republish later this year. Tell me about, given obviously you've done World Cups.
It's got a couple of tea stains on it, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good book stop. Tell me about the excitement levels, the anticipation, because there is a lot of pressure around this Red Roses side. They don't lose very often. They've got a home World Cup. Obviously, what happened in New Zealand at the last tournament as well will be on the shoulders of some. Tell me how you feel, how the squad feels, what sort of preparation you're going to go through to get ready.
Yeah, it's an exciting opportunity. I think the first question that's been asked all along is, how do we get done what we haven't had for 11 years? They're not easy things to win.
No.
And then also, what can we learn to enjoy and have fun and embrace and connect with our community in a home World Cup? What can we learn off the lads in 2015 that didn't get it right?
Probably not doing a concert at the O2 with Take That, saying about how
Gold
you're going to win
ticker tape
gold
on
ticker
the
tape.
night
That's
of the
the
tournament.
first thing I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Wouldn't agree to doing that.
So I think the things that come to mind is, how can we make it normal and easy?
Yeah.
And when it's on, it's on. And when it's not on, it's off. Because if you talking to a couple of lads that have experienced this sort of 4 World Cups under different leadership and stuff like that. It's interesting how the perception of almost being like in a high performance jail for this period of time versus another time when it's getting it right is when you're exploring the country that you're in, and there's plenty of good times, in the off, but when it's on, and your role's clear when it's on. So your identity of how you want to play is really, really clear. All those sorts of things. So the normal and easy bits definitely be a big part of the thinking.
I have seen with certainly the World Cups that I was involved with, that you can make a lot of progress up to a World Cup, but when it comes on, there's always that desire to suddenly kick on to be the best, and you sort of change what you do, change mentality, try to reinvent yourself. It's quite a hard balance to get right, isn't it? Because you've got that period of time, you've maybe got exposure to the women for longer than you would ordinarily have. How do you get the balance right between going, listen, this is what we've been doing really well, how can we reset our values but kick on without trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater and try to do something very different? Because 2015, 2011, we got into a training camp, for example, and the first day we ran 15K, went completely mad, we're still training in the dark, just sort of all these sessions, had 6 sessions in a day, and it was like everyone completely mental. I remember going up and going, fucking hell, this is day one. Like, Graham Round should be like, mate, if you don't want to be here, you can fuck off. I was like,
it's Australia.
Oh, sorry, it's Australia. It's like Graham Round should like, what, if you don't want to be here, fuck off. I went, it's not the case. It's 6 sessions on day one of a 6-week, 7-week preparation. Like, I'm just asking the question. Like, we were doing pretty well beforehand. And then with under Stuart Lancaster, they went with that VO2 max approach of we were going to be the fittest team in the world, and we would do endless runways backwards or down up, and then try to finish a move. We're still waiting to finish that move to this day. We never did it. We still fucked it. We never scored it. We never got it right. And actually, to get ball and play time, the game time never lent itself to that. As a coach, with the perception and the pressure, do you have to look at right? How do I keep them motivated and do this without going mad and becoming really tight and insular and changing what I do? Because it's not easy to do, is it?
No, it isn't easy. I think we've got to consolidate. I'm not really big on change going into it. We will evolve our game. Our game is working, and it is the right way. We will need to make sure that we create even more pressure both sides of the ball. I think we overplayed a little bit in 24, so I think we can tidy that up a little bit. Our DNA
overplayed, but won every game.
Yeah, overplayed from deep.
That's always my thing about coaching a team like the Red Roses, who are so, whether you perceive it or not, are so far ahead of other nations. Outside of the sort of, you would say, big six, I suppose. But having only lost 12 games since 2014 or whatever it was, obviously 2 of them are World Cup finals. How hard is it to sort of break that down? Because it's very rare in a coaching job to have that sort of success rate, but you still have to push the boundaries of where you see the weaknesses or where you want to go with the team.
Yeah, the physical demands of the game have definitely evolved since the last World Cup. I won't kill you off with numbers there, but they're definitely significant. So I'm not sure that we can get away with the best group playing 13 Test matches in a row, and certainly not the 2 warm-ups and then 6 World Cup games. So having 2 combinations, which we're very fortunate to have over and above all the other nations, I think our depth is phenomenal. How I use that smartly, I think is a key. To win 4 big Test matches in a row for us is based on the demands, is going to be a hard ask, and I think we've got to continue to keep our DNA. We have a natural instinct around taking the handbrake off, so the girls will play. It's just is sensing when you don't have momentum or you got slow ball is probably one of the biggest decision-making elements of the women's game, because there is a lot more space and a lot more time and space to play. So we've still got to make sure that we take the handbrake off.
Is that a new thing you've had to learn through management? Because we look at that South African team that we've got right now, and you argue about their second string and their third string and how strong they are. And Rassie has that clear focus as he plans his whole year about who's going to play in each of these games. Obviously, injuries can change that, and then managers convey that to the players, and they're all right with it. They go, I'm going to play the next 2 games, then I'm going to be off for a game, then I'm going to do. Is that sort of how you've tried to work it with the girls? Is they know up front, look, this is what I'm going to try and do here. Ideally, then I'm going to do this. You're going to have a week off there, and then we'll bring you back in. Is that, and how hard is that to manage in terms of, do the girls buy into it and go, okay, I know I'm playing these 2, I'm going to give everything to these 2, then I've got a break? Or
yeah, I think it's really important to be clear on when you're playing, but I don't think you need to project it too far. So, like for example, Six Nations will look something like this, where the girls will be given roles for 2 games, and then we have a fellow, and then you give them roles for another 2 games, and then obviously you've got the France, so that can be communicated on its own, and then you can do the same in a World Cup. So the role in a team, I think, especially World Cups, you'll both know this, is you've got your starters, so that's a pretty clear role, isn't it? And then you've got the replacement players as well. That's a pretty clear role. But I think the key to your team success is how we communicate and include our non-playing members. And like, as you know, that you can't afford to have too many non-playing members because it's a difficult job to maintain. So how do they lead the opposition's plays? How do they win when the team wins? How do they not get a 10-second conversation and they get a valued conversation? I think there's something really, really important in that, and then making sure that they're not whinging or moaning, because whinging and moaning doesn't win your rugby, and certainly doesn't win your World Cups. So I think what's expected of them, I think, is a critical piece of communication.
That's massively vital. So I was just going to say, because I saw that firsthand in 2015. First couple of games, I was in the team binges. We weren't there, but obviously we had to run through the people's moves. We had to set the standard of training, and actually there wasn't a lot of that feedback coming back to the players. And I actually said to some of the young guys, "When was the last time the coach spoke to you?" And he was like, "I haven't had a conversation for 2 weeks, 3 weeks." I actually went to one of the coaches in particular and said, "Listen, I've been saying this. You need to check in with him." And he sort of looked at me a bit funny. He said, "I'm not telling you to do your job, but I think it's important to just have a word, put your arm around, give him a bit of feedback." And I remember coming back the following week. Does he spoke to you? No. And I was like, well, if you're not going to put the time in to manage them, because the non-players, the dirt tracks, whatever, are vitally important, because they often set the mood, set the tone, set the standard of training. But left unchecked, they can also be your undoing.
Yeah.
And if you pick the wrong people, like I think sometimes I played in teams where those guys, when they're starting, they're brilliant. But actually, you sort of look under the hood, and sometimes those guys can be the most disruptive and actually don't deal with it very well. There's players, I won't name specifically, but those guys that could not handle not starting and would be very disruptive. And actually, you were exactly right, because especially when it comes into a World Cup, because the Six Nations is okay, because you go back to see your family, you go back to see your friends. Sometimes you've got those fallow weeks. A World Cup, when you're in camp the whole time and you're not being managed properly, not being talked to properly, that it can be your undoing. It's a vital thing.
You have to be a giver.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
You have been there, you've done it, you've got most of the T-shirts, you've got certainly the battle scars, quite literally in some cases. If you are to be successful in the Women's Rugby World Cup of 2025, where would that rank in what you've done in the game? Not necessarily as an achievement, but just as a sort of, I suppose, as a personal satisfaction.
It'll be high up there, again, you're trying to draw me into outcome here, Alex.
I'm just interested as to what's to come. He's a philosophical man, John, but I'm just trying to sort of put...
He's above that these days, I told you.
Right.
It's about the journey.
But, it would be special. I mean, it was a bit like, I actually got emotional after the Grand Slam last year. And you know why I got emotional? Because they're so bloody hard to get.
Yeah.
Like in the men's Grand Slams, I just realised how flipping hard they are to get. And so I got a bit emotional after that game. Yeah, like a Grand Slam.
What does an emotional John Mitchell look like? Did you just get just one solitary tear run down your face? That's enough. Yeah, that's enough. Or what does it look like?
No, it's a bit of a tap, mate. It comes flying out.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, it comes flying, and then
once you crack it,
gets more.
Yeah, and then I once it's gone, it's gone. You're right. So it's more joyful tears.
Fine, okay.
I can go into a hospital with a family member, I'm just like rock hard.
Yeah.
I don't cry, nothing.
Yeah.
But joy,
Yes. Oh, really?
joyful tears, like
They're good. That's good stuff.
I think it'd be
joyful tears. I feel like I'm a real softie.
But I think it'd be quite unnerving.
Like,
I know I've only known you for a limited period of time, but I'd like to look over and everything's stable, everyone's crying. You look over, John Mitchell's still got his shit in order. Like, strong John. If I look at all the wheels falling winning and look over and John's fucking
John's
crying,
gone.
I'm like, John's
Strong
gone.
John. Strong John, not gone, John.
Where's strong John? John's gone.
This will not be a good. I'll be like, can you stop doing this? You really off-put me. Go and have a cry in the corner. We need you, strong, silent John. We can't have you fucking crying.
have you got bad rotation on that now?
Yeah, really, but nothing works like that. No, you saw me limping.
Have you seen him walk?
I'm wearing
Nothing
flip-flops because my
works.
feet don't work, my neck doesn't work. I have a spinal surgery, but play rugby, kids. It's great.
It's great for you. Can we finish with some very quick-fire questions?
Yeah, easy.
Just fascinated. So the biggest achievement of your career to date, the thing you're most proud of, achievement? The game, the team, the trophy.
Obviously, caveat with getting married and stuff like that, and the
Within
birth
the
of
game.
children, cover that off.
take those off.
Take them for granted, yeah.
Beating the Box in Pretoria by 50 and beating Australia the following week by 50 on the road when
That's a good tour.
when we were going through a World Cup bonus performance row with the executive. That was a special couple of weeks.
Toughest moment of your career?
The World Cup in 2003.
Yep. Did you feel you blew it in 03?
Yeah. I think if we got a chance against Tins and the boys, we would have been a different side to the one they had in Wellington.
Yeah.
They got in Wellington because we were pretty confident and growing a lot that year.
Yeah.
And I think attacking wise, we were.
Should have won it. I watched the summer test. I don't know how you didn't win that game, but
That was And can you put your finger on why in that game it got away?
The Beaver got us in the breakdown, mate.
Yeah, did he?
Yeah, he
George
did. Like
Smith.
so, we remember we played that sort of like
Sterling
started
played had
that
the game of his
4-2
life as well,
Yeah,
didn't he?
yeah. Like I think Carlos shifted some ball off collapse small intercept, but the breakdown Beaver did Eddie did a good job. Who was the flanker? George Smith.
Yeah, George. Great,
Yeah, in the middle they slowed down the middle ruck, so we missed out on the edge attack a lot more. They done a good job on that, and I look back on it because we had Wales who
He played
tested us.
well in that game.
They they tested us properly.
We were watching that game.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting
That was your
New Zealand.
quarter-final.
Yeah.
And that was like 1 p.m. we got back, and then we had our old foes, the Box, who take a lot out of us mentally because it's like got to be done.
Yeah.
And we had a good performance, but then we had a short turnaround, and I didn't get the breakdown work right that week.
Amazing, isn't it?
What do you mean? Did you get what? Just you didn't pick where to target, or just the skill set?
I needed to liven up, mate.
Right. I was still a bit soft.
It was too soft. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Just I didn't give it a. I didn't give it a.
Why are you laughing?
Because I've
Fine,
never
okay.
experienced him missing out.
Just
Enough guards in.
yeah,
On a
just
ruck
remind
session.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you've referenced it already, but how long did it take you to get over the moving out of that All Black job?
Too long, mate.
Really?
Was it 203? 203. You've given me a memory. So, gone through all the hurdles of I reapplied, all that sort of stuff, just purely to hand over properly and stuff. But then I remember going to Test cricket, New Zealand, Pakistan, and took Daryl actually to Seddon Park there, and just as I'm sitting on the bank, we're just sitting down with a young fella, I can't remember what age he was. Anyway, I was sitting down and it goes, and the new All Black coach is, Graham Henry. And I looked at the young fella and I went, hey mate, it's time to go. So we'd only been there for 10 minutes. Back out. So he still remembers that. No, it was, I took too long. So when you think about it, 2007 in Nice in the sushi restaurant.
Yeah.
After watching, I think it was England, Australia. England beat Australia at Marseille.
That's right.
And sunburnt, nice bit of sushi, good bit of red wine. Then all of a sudden these emails and phone calls coming through going, no, you haven't got it right, John Mitchell. And then it took the attack to say, wake up, evolve, otherwise you ain't going to last in this game.
Yeah.
I love this game too much. I've been in it too long to not be able to be as good as I can be for the younger athlete.
Yeah. But it's only a game, as you say.
Yeah.
Jonah, Cullen, Carlos, and many, many others. Best player you've coached?
Best player I've coached, sure. Wow.
Ellie Kildun,
Yeah.
Skaz.
It's a pretty hard call, but
Meg
I mean,
Jones.
So do men and women's well.
I think McCaw is probably the best I've come across. Professionally, David Pocock is probably not as tall and as elastic as McCaw.
Memories of Jonah?
Yeah, Jonah. I never got the best of Jonah, sadly.
Yeah.
I remember sitting down with his agent, Phil Kingsley-Jones, before mid-season in Super Rugby, going, look, I need to have this meeting because I'm not sure whether I can take you to Britain at the end of the year because you're not the best winger, in the country, and something's not right because, the physical tests were way off the mark. You weren't expecting him to be brilliant with being a power athlete.
Yeah.
But they were way off the mark and stuff like that. And it's almost like it wasn't getting disclosed to me as head coach how much he was degenerating through his illness.
Really?
And possibly people were overprotecting him because of his value and not looking after his health. So I got a tour to Argentina with him where I really enjoyed his company, got to know him, to understand his upbringing and stuff like that. So that was powerful. And then my lasting moments I'll share with you, Wales, 2002. He's not playing particularly well. He looks like he's got an element of HIA, which wasn't obviously the label back then.
Yeah.
So the medical team at halftime said, look, no, he's okay. I said, well, let's give him 10 minutes more. And he obviously didn't come through. So we took him out. It was the end of the tour that night. I was walking down the corridor to my room about 10 p.m. and I walked past and here was this, big man with the medical team vomiting, really poorly. So I go up to Macclesfield and Manchester to see friends and that, and I pick up a paper and he's in Macclesfield Hospital. So I'm flying out the next night. So I drive about 18 miles, only 18 miles. So I go and see him, and here's this big guy, like 6'4" guy, in wires hanging out of him, and that was his last Test match ever.
Really?
And I had also the privilege of playing in his All Black trial where he was selected that evening, and I still remember this young 18-year-old boy standing in the pub in Napier, bewildered that he'd become an All Black, couldn't quite comprehend, and was such a shy young man to when he became a proper adult. He was a wonderful being, but I don't think he was as managed as well as he could have been.
Yeah, the man who changed the game for sure. Would you ever get back into the men's game?
Never say never.
Never say never. When you retire, where will you settle?
Yeah, I live in Brookwood, not the most prettiest of streets.
Uruguay, we've decided.
Yeah, well, we'll get there.
It's
half and half.
Yeah.
I'm in. You need assistant coach.
6
I'm in
months,
there.
Treviso could be a good spot as well, I reckon. Yeah, we've got a very inclusive street. So I've got a big South African brick braai out the side of my home or back of my home. My wife hands out the beers and the steaks through the window, but all my English mates call it the crematorium. So they see the smoke coming out and everything. Oh, there goes the crematorium. So
Yeah. So would you? I mean, do you call this home now? Or
yeah,
is
I
there
do.
a bit-
This home. I really enjoy England. I should never have left back in 2000. It's for some reason it's always just warms my heart. I just love. I'm a pub man, I like having a beer and I just love dressing up for the cold and I just love all the sport that goes on.
Yeah.
You got bloody managers at the top of the game, you got managers in the middle, you got guys fighting for their life and I just love the way that life goes about here.
Do you bounce off other coaches in other sports?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do.
Anyone interesting? Good advice?
Craig Bellamy in rugby league. I know Sean Dice very well.
Yeah.
So that's more recent. And then I've got, I think the key, being an older bugger, is staying connected with younger coaches. I mean, like I'm connected with younger coaches now. And, there's some really good younger coaches in the Premiership. I actually learn a lot off them.
Do you?
Say Adam Powell at, say, for example, at Saracens, ring him up. What's challenging you in the game? If it's cool. Like to be able to have that two-way relationship. And I think if I continue to remain connected with younger coaches, I think I'll continue to get better.
Do you chat to Steve at all?
I have. Steve's visited. Training sessions and stuff. So yes, we do chat. Would I go out of my way socially and stuff? I mean, Steve's not that kind of bloke.
No.
But like when he's in a rugby space, I definitely do chat to him.
Yeah. Fascinating. And there's so much more we could have spoken to you about. But it's been really, really, you're going to do 1,000 interviews between now and whatever is to come and whatever the outcome will be. But it's been very nice to have a chat about the man, you, as opposed to what will be on the field of play over the next few months. Good luck with that. Everybody that comes on gets
a bottle of black eye.
A bottle of black eye.
I assume this one's full.
Yeah, it is. Sure.
So there you go.
Not sure
£1.50 of every
goes well with the
bottle
barbecue,
goes
actually.
back into the game. So hopefully we're going to at one point
Thank
be
you very much.
putting
That's very kind.
It's our gin.
over a million quid back into the game for injured players. So there you go.
Just one double goal in San Francisco. It's good gear, mate, as well. We're not,
Yeah.
It's proper top, yeah.
Save it for the summer.
Can't have a member of the royal family flogging dodgy gear. It's the best.
John, thank you so much for coming in. It's been absolutely fascinating, and it goes without saying we wish you all the very best of luck for what's to come this year.
Thank you.
Couple of other bits before we finish up, and as you can imagine, we would be rambling on and on were it not for our team calling time on us every week. But all of that is changing thanks to our new partners at Watches of Bath. Whether you're looking to purchase, part exchange or sell your timepiece, Watches of Bath has you covered, doesn't it, Hask?
It absolutely does, Alex. And it's with thanks to Watches of Bath that every month we will put one lucky grassroots player to the test, all in the name of winning a cash prize of up to £5,000, helping to take their club to their next level or have the social of the decade.
The contestants and their glamorous assistant will need to identify up to 6 mystery rugby players based only on the clubs they've represented in their career. So if you think you have what it takes, please head to the link in the episode description to fill the entry form with your club's name and details for your chance to win. Please get your entry in by midnight on the evening of Sunday, March 30th to be in the draw.
All entries have to be UK based, and it has to be money that is used for the club, not personal use. Who'd have thought it? Good luck with that. Do get involved if you so choose. We've given out, I think, quite a chunk of money already, so it'd be great to keep that going. That is it for this week's show. For extra content, don't forget to subscribe to the Lock-In. That's available at £3.99p per month.
Did you say £3.99
I said
for an extra podcast?
I said £3.99
steal
per month, less than the price of a coffee in some parts of the country.
And you're going to laugh, and you get more enjoyment, and you leave nice flavour in your mouth.
Click on that if you fancy it. This Father's Day, Sunday, June the 15th. Give your dad a gift he will never forget, and I truly mean never forget. Because Good Bad Rugby Live is taking place at Hampton Court Festival. Hask is live on the mic, and we will be having a lot of fun, hopefully in the sun. Get your tickets now at hamptoncourtpalacefestival.com if that is your thing. A reminder, you can watch the full podcast on Spotify now, as well as on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow us on social media for the latest rugby updates. Do get in contact with us using the email info@goodbadrugby.com. We love hearing from you. All points, good and bad.
Some people are sending emails. That's quite interesting, isn't it?
What do you mean
Not
some
all
people
nice.
are sending emails?
Well, we've got fans who actually responded because we always ask the question.
No, we've had some very nice emails.
We have had some lovely emails, but there's also
Some not
bits
so
that I
good
don't
ones as
see.
well.
But there's there.
That is the second book we should do. It's just the emails of our
Mean
life.
tweets and emails, yeah.
Feedback.
Feedback.
Feedback. Thank you for tuning in, as always, to The Good, The Bad and The Rugby in partnership with Continental Tyres, our go-to for premium tyres, whether on the rugby field or the road. Safety always comes first, and also, unlike this show, Continental Tyres are award-winning. We're a Folding Pocket production. This episode was produced by Tom Edwards. Enjoy the rest of your week. Back same time, same place, in 7 days' time. Bye for now.
You've been listening to The Good, Yay, The Bad, and The Rugby, Oof, with Alex Payne, James Haskell and Mike Tindall. Thanks for listening.